Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and members of the panel. My name is Crystal Manganaro, and it's an honor to speak with you this morning on behalf of my son Matthew and our experience with Lone Star Expeditions, a therapeutic wilderness camp owned by Aspen Education Group. Matthew's birthday was yesterday. He would be 19. So please forgive me if I hesitate from time to time while I tell you about Matthew's experience. First, I want to tell you that I gave birth to two beautiful children, Victoria, who is now 25, and Matthew, my baby. After 9/11, Victoria joined the Navy and did 2 tours in the war. And is now living in San Diego, and with her husband John, who is still in the Navy. She works for a nonprofit organization that services autistic kids. Matthew was a different kid most of his life and started getting into trouble in kindergarten. He was suicidal in the 4th grade and hospitalized. Each year got worse, and for him emotionally and socially. In 9th grade, I knew I had to do something. He no longer respected authority, and he refused to do anything he didn't want to do. When he bowed up to my husband John and said he would effing take him down, I knew I had to find a place to help him. I had looked into different programs before Matt went to Lone Star Expeditions. On September 7th, I called Lone Star. I was asked to complete the online application and send it to them. If Matthew could be helped by them, they would let me know. I did as they asked, and within an hour, Matthew had been approved for their program. Only 8 boys at a time was their limit, and it just so happened they had a spot for Matt. The cost for a 28-day stay was $12,000. The loan company that they referred me to told me to get a $15,000 loan for extra incidentals. If you love your child the way I love Matthew, there's nothing you won't do for them. On September 8th, John and I took Matthew to Lone Star. Matt knew what was going on and asked how long he'd be there. 28 days, he was told, or longer, depending on how well he did. Matthew asked me to go outside with him twice. I told him no. I knew that I would change my mind for the millionth time and take him home. I told Matt I loved him very much and hugged him as much as he would let me. He was then taken away. I didn't know that would be the last time I would see him. Excuse me. John and I were led to an office where I could sign all the necessary forms. Sign here, initial there, this is that, that is this, flip, flip, flip. As a parent, like probably all parents that have gone through this, I did not sign these papers with a happy heart. This was the last resort for us. And being under duress is putting in my belief. Everything is a blur. And my thoughts were, if I don't do this right now, I won't do it at all. These companies know this and they play on us. There was a paragraph that I initialed that said, and I quote, hold on, let me get both eyes covered. Oh, thank you. The sponsor, me, intends by this waiver and release to release in advance and to waive his or her rights and discharge each and every one of the released parties, them, from any and all claims for damages for death, personal injury, or property damage which sponsor may have or which may hereafter accrue as a result of students' participation in any aspect of the programs, even though that liability may arise from negligence or carelessness on the part of the persons or entities being released, from dangerous or defective property or equipment owned, maintained or controlled by them, or because of their possible liability without fault. Additionally, sponsor covenants not to sue any of the released parties based upon their breach of any duty owed to sponsor or student as a result of their participation in any aspect of the program. This was not explained while the papers were being flipped. What I didn't know until we sued the program was that Matthew had to sign 5 legal forms the day he was admitted. 2 full pages refer to his rights. A 14-year-old kid should not be signing anything without a parent or guardian as a witness. Apparently these forms were flung at him like they were me, and believe me when I say that had Matt known he had any legal rights, he would have acted on them. If given the chance. Either he wasn't allowed to read the papers that he was made to sign, of which I do have a copy, or he wasn't allowed to exercise his rights. I don't know the answer to this. Matthew was on medication for bipolar disorder. At home, every night was a fight to get him to take it. Only because he fought anything I asked him to do. I'm telling you this because Matthew refused his medication at the camp. They were to call me and his doctor if he refused any meds. I never got a phone call, and neither did his doctor. Well, his doctor did get a phone call the day after he died. Matthew suffered over 24 hours in excruciating pain. The night before he died on September 16th, he complained of his chest hurting. He was mumbling and stumbling around, and his legs felt numb. The field instructors called the psychologist, and over the phone, he decided it was an anxiety attack and don't worry about it. On September 17th, 9 days after he entered the program, his group was on a 1-mile hike, and they got lost. So the hike ended up being over 3 miles with a heat index between 115 and 130. When they stopped for lunch, Matthew said he couldn't go on any further. The staff said they had to make it to the evening camp and move it. He just couldn't move, and the other boys offered to carry him. The peer pressure must have been tough because Matthew finally struggled and moved. When they got close to the evening camp, after many stops for Matthew to rest, Matt was really struggling, especially the last 200 yards. And when he made it to the camp, he collapsed. The staff kept telling him to get up and set up camp. He could lay down later. They threw water on him and kept telling him to get up and quit faking. This happened several times. After about 20 minutes, they thought he was snoring. No, he was aspirating. He was dying, and they never even looked at him. Mind you, there were only 5 boys and 2 instructors there at the time. Someone should have been able to physically go and check Matthew out. One of the instructors personally told me to my face that he was an ex-Navy SEAL, and this was the first person he had ever lost doing CPR. Come to find out, he was never even in the Navy. Aspen didn't do a background check on him, and everyone he worked with thought he was an ex-Navy SEAL. I don't know how this happened. I had so many questions because something never felt right. This was not just a tragic accident, I was being told. After 6 months, I contacted a lawyer friend of mine who also knew Matthew and asked if he would help me. He jumped. Where am I? Okay. He had been waiting for this day and jumped on it. After 2 years of finding out all we could, we filed a lawsuit in Los Angeles, California. The depositions started for both sides, which were a few on my side, but quite a few on theirs. The VP of Aspen Education, the field medic, the director at the time of Matt's death, 3 field instructors, the medical expert, and a few more. I walked, let's see.